To transition to her Katon stance, and that's what I'm calling it, I honestly don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, you press 1+2 when you're in a neutral. If you press 1+2, you transition to her Katon stance, and keep in mind she cannot block when she's in that stance. Now when you're in stance, if you press back, she will transition into her back turn stance, and she has a good amount of moves from this stance. When you're in the Katon stance and you press forward, she transitions into her set stance, which I believe is her main stance. She has a ton of moves in this stance. It's technically not called set, I'm just shortening it because I don't want to pronounce that long S word. And when you're in the stance, if you press up, she teleports in the air and comes down to the ground. Now she doesn't do any attacks here. I will give you guys some suggestions on how to use that in the tips and suggestions section at the end of this video. There are two ways that I know of, two strings I know of that you use to enter Katon stance. Her 1-1 string and her 2-2 string. Now, I could have missed something. If I did, please let me know in the comments below. More importantly, Tekken is notorious for bringing legacy characters into Tekken 7 and not listing all of their moves in the move list. So there could be some hidden transitions that I don't know about as well. Now her 1-1 and her 2-2 are both natural combos that effectively makes her 1-1 a 10 frame block punisher and her 2-2 a 12 frame block punisher. And this is really good because you're going to have multiple situations where you can probably enter this stance from punishing your opponent with plus frames, and that's really good. Her 1-1 and her 2-2 are both high mid. That is good as well. That means your opponent will not be able to duck the second hit. Normally, honestly, a 1-1 or a 1-2, at least in my experience, the first two hits typically gel on block from a 10 frame move, so you normally can't duck the second hit anyway, but it's still good that it's a mid in my humble opinion. Now on block, the 1-1 is -7 and is +4 on hit. So when you go into Katon stance, you're +4 on hit and you're -7 on block, and the 2-2 is -6 on block and +5 on hit when you go into Katon stance. Again, remember, you cannot block in Katon stance. So if you enter Katon stance even with plus frames and you don't press anything at all, you're effectively leaving yourself open to be launched, even if you enter with plus frames. And because you're not plus on block, you need to be very careful when you enter the stance as well. I'm showing you here. I did the 2-2, blocked it, tried to do her Katon 1, which is her fastest move out of stance, and I got hit. Okay. Because I was -6 on block. But here I do 2-2, I'm +5 on block, and then I try to interrupt it with her 2-2 and I get a counter hit because I'm plus. So obviously if you enter the stance with plus frames, you're in a much better position and situation than if you enter it with minus frames. Her fastest move out of her Katon stance is her Katon 1. That is an I-15 frame mid. It is -5 on block, and because her Katon moves return her back to neutral, that is safe on block. She can effectively block after that. So -5 on block, she's safe on block. She's +6 on hit, so decent frames on hit. She's +12 on counter hit. So if you land Katon 1 on counter hit, you can get a guaranteed I-12 move or faster. So basically like Katon 1 on counter hit into her 2-2. Now, since it comes out in I-15 frames, for example, if you do her 2-2, land that on hit going into Katon stance, you should effectively trade with a 10 frame move, but beat out any other move that is slower than 10 frames. Technically, you never know with Tekken. There's a lot of other things to take into consideration there, but technically you should beat out any other move that is I-11 or slower. The range of this move is pretty decent. I personally don't see the point of using this as a whiff punisher. I feel like she has better moves for whiff punishing that actually launch you. This doesn't launch you on regular hits, so I wouldn't use it for that, but the range still is decent. This move tracks to the right, but doesn't have the best tracking to the left. You should be able to sidewalk this to the left or sidestep this to the left. Katon 2 is an I-22 mid that is -11 on block. As you can see, this is unsafe on block. Not by a lot, only -11, but still unsafe on block. So definitely a problem if you're playing characters that have really good 10 frame punishers. On hit is a knockdown, and you're right on top of your opponent right there. So you're basically in a good position for some really good 𝐂𝐓𝐇. I don't know how good her 𝐂𝐓𝐇 is, but if she has good 𝐂𝐓𝐇, then your opponent has some things to be concerned about right here. This has some decent range, but again, it's I-22, it's slower. I don't really see it as a good whiff punisher. I could be wrong. I would prefer to go with her down 4-2 or something like that, something that launches on hit. And this move, just like the other move, tracks to the right, doesn't have as good tracking to the left. Now, before we move on, I want to talk about the fact that Katon 2 tech crouches. Basically, when she does Katon 2, she's entering crouch status. This is very important. Before I go forward with that, if you don't understand what I mean when I say tech crouch or TC, please check out my Tekken 7 hidden frame mechanics video. I break down basic frame mechanics, jump status, tech crouch, power crushes, mechanics that have frames within frames with very easy, straightforward examples, and give you a clear basic understanding of how those mechanics work. So check that out. Anyway, as I said before, this is very important because you don't have plus frames when you go into the Katon stance off of block. Remember, I said that. So for example, if I do Katon 2-2 into her not Katon 2-2. If I do her 2-2 into her Katon stance, that is -6 on block. But you see in this example right here, Josie, I'm trying to attack with a 10 frame attack, it's whiffing. 11 frame attack, it's whiffing. A 12 frame attack, it's whiffing. That's interesting. Despite the fact that Katon 2 is I-22 and I'm coming off -6 on block, it's whiffing and I'm getting my attack. I'm winning this trade simply because Katon 2 tech crouches, which means all those highs are going over Kunimitsu. So I'm crushing all of those highs. That's important because in cases where you go into use 2-2 into Katon on hit and you're +5 on hit, for example, and you would trade with the I-10 move, like I said, if you choose to do Katon 2, you will crush that I-10 move. I think every I-10 move in the game is a high. So that's something for mind games and give you more options for your pressure with Katon. Katon 3-2 is a mid-mid natural combo. The starter frames are between I-18 and I-20. That seems to change depending on how far or how close you are to your opponent. On block, this is -16 on block. Yes, this is launch punishable, so please be careful when tossing this move out. However, on hit, natural combo, remember that, this is a launcher, so very good on hit. So this move seems to be a great risk versus a great reward type of move, so totally up to you. Now, even though you teleport to the sky and come down to your opponent, that's not like a auto tracking landing type thing. This move has a limited range. If you do this far enough away, it will whiff, so keep that in mind. And just like all the other Katon moves, well, for the most part, yeah, pretty much all the other Katon moves that we've gone over so far seems to have some tracking to the right, but pretty much not that much tracking to the left. So you can step this move to the left, you can sidewalk this move to the left. However, this move can be sidewalked to the right, at least from my labbing. So that is a little bit different. Okay, the last string in Katon stance is Katon 4-2, which is a low-high string. This is not a natural combo like Katon 3-2. And more importantly, this does not gel on block, meaning if you block the low, you can still duck the high. The low by itself is -16, which is launch punishable. The high is -9, which is safe on block. This move comes out in 22 frames, so I think the slowest of all the Katon moves. No, actually Katon 2 comes out in 22 frames as well. The range of this move is actually pretty good compared to all the other moves. I think this has the most range, but again, just like Katon 3-2, it is a limited range. So if you are far enough away, it will whiff. If the high lands on regular hit, it will knock you down. If it lands on counter hit, the high will launch you. And this entire string is a natural combo on counter hit. Okay, it is a natural combo on counter hit, and if just the high lands on counter hit, it will launch you. Now, as far as stepping goes, for me, for this type of string, I would rather just duck and launch, or if they stop with the low, just block the low and launch. But you can step the string. The stepping, the sidewalking was pretty much identical from my experience for Katon 3-2, was identical to Katon 4-2 in terms of how you step and sidewalk. I should clarify though that at least for me, the difficulty of stepping and sidewalking and the timing all changed based on the distance of how close or far I was from my opponent for Katon 3-2 and for Katon 4-2. Tip 1. You have multiple options with your 1-1 and your 2-2 strings. Mix up these options so your opponent cannot read what you're going to do. Sometimes do just 1-1 or just 2-2. Sometimes do 1-1 into Katon Stance or 2-2 into Katon Stance. Sometimes completely finish the string, 1-1-1 or 1-1-2. I think there's another option, or just 2-2-2-2-2-2-2, kind of like Katarina's 4-4-4s. But my point is, mix up your options so your opponent can't read what you're going to do. Tip 2, you can delay all your Katon attacks. Okay, yes, that is risky because you cannot block in Katon Stance. I've said this. However, read your opponent. Okay, sometimes there's a time and a place for everything. If you're playing an opponent that's very defensive, it is possible that they may let down their defense when they think you're not going to attack, and you may catch them at that moment with an attack. Either way, be aware that your Katon attacks can come out, or Katon attacks, well, I swear I'm mixing up that word. Your attacks can come out of stance immediately, or you can delay them a good amount before they come out. Okay, for tip 3, if you knock your opponent down and you read they're going to do a wake up kick, whether it's a low or a mid, if you see on the screen here, Katon 3-2 may be a good option, because if you cause your opponent to whiff, remember it's a natural combo and a launcher, you basically get to launch your opponent there, which is very, very good. The last part is more of a suggestion than it is a tip. Back in the transition section when I talked about Katon up, where you teleport to the sky and just come down, I'm suggesting here that maybe you mix in Katon 3 with Katon up, because the startup animation is very similar. You teleport to the sky, and one you come down, you don't attack at all, and the other you come down with an attack. And your opponent may not know what you're going to do, so they may not attack you if you do Katon up if you're mixing those up, which could allow you to go for like a throw or something, or do some poking pressure. And if you're really freezing your opponent up and you just want to change up the timing of an air attack, maybe toss in up 3+4. Now the animations is a little different, but if he's really frozen up, it may work because you're coming out of the sky. Alright, that's the end of my Tekken 7 Kunimitsu Katon Stance overview and breakdown. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a lot of fun making it. If you guys like the content, please like and subscribe. It really does help my channel out a lot. This is Acid Light. You guys take care.